All righty, what's going on? What's going on? What is going on? This is episode 2 of Rise Like a Phoenix podcast. Today, we are having a conversation about finances, right? This is a conversation that everyone gets not everyone, but a large majority of people get a little sidetracked and intimidated of the conversation about money. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how finances became a comfortable conversation to me. And the goal is for you to, if money is a very uncomfortable topic for you for several reasons, then really it's to allow you to get comfortable talking about something that's very important, right? So, fixing my shirt here. So the reality of the situation is usually 70 to 75% of our problems come from money, finances. And if we spend, like a lot of us, spend most of our times avoiding the problems that we have in our life, you're just going to continue to loop and loop and loop and loop and loop around. Okay. So to first start to be good at money and to be good at life and to get rid of this big problem that most of us have is to first understand what it is and where it comes from and why it's being used and all these different things around it, right? And also to change your perspective. I like to call it changing your relationship with money. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I got into, my mindset about money and, why it's like that. And just, again, the goal is to say, okay, I can't keep avoiding this conversation and I need to understand how it works. And honestly, if anyone leans into understanding the psychology of how to use money and use it as a tool to work for you and not work on you, and you know what I mean, you the opposite way, it's going to change everything about everything you do. So yeah, so that's where it's at. So that first, let me just go back and say first, money is energy. Money is energy. It's not like we look at the paper bills, the dollars, the $20 bills, the $100 bills, and we're like, that's what it is, right? That's just a man-made piece of paper. Also, we look at our bank accounts, right? We got a Bank of America account, we got a Chase account, we have a PNC account, whatever accounts that you use, and we're looking at these digital numbers. It may say $800, it may say $8, it may say $8 million. Whatever that number says, it's a made up number to basically show what value you have or show what, your worth or whatever the case may be to someone else for the most part, right? That's kind of how this thing works. Now, a lot of times, a lot of us get so attached to that number that our emotions are moving up and down based on what that number looks like, whether it be a physical paper in our hand, dollars, or whatever that digital number displays on our app. Depending on how much of that we have, our emotions do this. And the reason that it does this is because usually somebody wants that dollar, right? Their expenses, right? So bills, car note, rent, insurance, things like that. And also just, buying stuff, right? If you want some water, it costs money to buy water. If you want gas, it costs money to buy gas. If you want headset, whatever the case may be, it costs money to do this. So it brings to the question, right? The question is, why, if there's a large problem in this area, why do most people avoid it, right? Well, the reason is because there's some subconsciousness stuff going on that people don't feel that they're worthy enough to have that conversation. People don't think valuable enough of themselves to have this conversation and get into it, right? When I was 26 years old, I was working for an insurance company. We're going to talk about this a little bit. I was working for an insurance company, and there's a man that approached me about life insurance. Now, I was working on the health insurance side. I was doing group health insurance. I was a salesperson, and a guy approached me about life insurance, which is on the other side, right? And so I had been around in corporate environments and things like that. So I was comfortable having conversations with the guys in the suits. I was one of the guys in the suits as well. But initially, when I heard about it, I was like, am I supposed to be sitting down with some suited, white man that's going to talk to me about money? Can I do this? Am I supposed to do this? This is kind of out of my comfort zone. And so I got to the point I was working in corporate enough and I seen enough around me to get to say, you know what, have this conversation, go sit down, talk about it. This is something that nobody in your family has ever talked to you about. No one in your environment has ever talked to you about, and you need to have this conversation. I had just had my son at that point. And so for me, it was about financial security. And I had to at some point wrap my brain around this concept that I can't be afraid to have a conversation. So I sat down with a guy, got a life insurance policy. And then that is what started kind of, it was like a drop in the bucket of me thinking about finances. Up until 26, I was afraid to have the conversation. I was afraid to think about it. All I knew was that, you get this check and then everything goes out and then you got 20% of your money left on week 2, week 3, and then you still got a week and a half left of the month and you really don't have any money to even use or work with, right? So that was my ideology about money up until the age of 26. Now, when I sat with the financial advisor, when I started to, understand different money concepts, and it was through life insurance first, not budgeting, not investing, not any of this other stuff. It was specifically through life insurance first. He opened me up. Hey, you got to start looking at budgets. You got to start looking at, how to spend your money. Go read the book, Psychology of Money, things like that, right? So open my mind up. I'm getting exposed to different ways to look at money. A lot of us in our culture, for the most part, when we receive a check, our first thought process is that I'm going to go buy AirPods. I'm going to go buy shoes. I'm going to go buy clothes. I'm going to go buy things. I'm going to consume stuff. And I'm going to go make myself feel good, because really what's going on is I'm thinking that this money is going to run out at some point. So I need to get all my stuff in. I need to go get all my spending in before the money runs out, right? So I know I got some bills coming up. I know I got some obligations. I got to pay some people back and all that stuff. But before I do all that, let me go and buy some stuff and get mine in before. And that's such a flawed way of thinking. That's such a detrimental way of approaching the psychology of money and all of that, man. So it's so much more to the story too. And you got to really get on a journey. You got to get on a journey of understanding yourself to be able to understand how money is going to work for you. It's just the energy for the most part, right? So really quick, I've been in insurance for the last 8 years. I've learned a lot through insurance. I've done auto insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance, and life insurance. I've been a loan officer. I've taken all these doggone tests and all that stuff. So again, like I said before, on the first episode, I've spoken to probably about 8 to 10,000 people in the last 8 years regarding finances and decision making on assets, right? So in auto insurance, you're speaking to people about their car, right? Their car, insuring their car if they get into an accident. How am I going to insure this? How much money do I have from the company to help me get my car back into a good place or a new car, right? Homeowners insurance, same deal. If a storm hits my roof and my roof gets damaged, how is my insurance going to help me pay for this? Because I don't have $50,000, $60,000 on deck to take care of this roof issue, right? Health insurance. If I get sick, if somebody gets a heart transplant or some sort of skin disease, whatever the case, there's so many different things that happens, right? I have health insurance because it may be a big cost, maybe $20,000, $30,000 to fix your brain or whatever the case may be. So health insurance is in place for that. And then the other piece is life insurance, right? If I happen to check out earlier, sooner than later, and there's an income loss in the household. Let's say I have a family of 4, right? And I'm a main breadwinner in the house. I'm bringing in $150,000 a year. Well, let's just say if I have a life insurance policy and I happen to check out sooner than later, then that $150,000 a year is gone. So the life insurance policy is in place to where if I have $200,000 worth of coverage and I check out prematurely, then that income is still there for my family to leave back. So that's kind of just broke down really the more the basic 4 insurance hubs that every person will have to deal with. So anyway, where I'm going with that is that when I started to learn about I had that conversation with the financial advisor. He spoke to me about, this is what life insurance does. This is where how it works for you on a financial standpoint. So lo and behold, the next year I went to start working for a life insurance company, right, where they did life insurance and annuities. And so I'm 28. or so. Yeah, 28 and some change. And I'm working for this life insurance company. I had no idea what I was stepping into. The only previous knowledge I had about finances was sitting down with the financial advisor that sparked some sort of, seed in me to start to look into my finances, right? So that's all I knew. But I get into this life insurance company and I'm on the top floor. I'm in here in the Dallas Metroplex, Dallas, Texas Metroplex. And I'm like, okay, hold on, this is different. So at first I got this top floor. I get in there, you go all the way to the top floor, right? So I get up on the top floor. I'm seeing the whole city. That's the first thing. So I'm already like, okay, this is different. I hadn't had a corporate job where I'm at the top floor. It's a nice, extravagant floor. You got all the open windows and meeting rooms and things like that. And you got the CEOs and all that. You can see the meetings and all that. And it was just a nice look. And so that's the first thing that intrigued me. Like, oh, this feels luxurious. This is a luxurious position that I'm in, right? I'm learning how to accept, like, it's not just getting by and surviving. Like, I'm around some players here, right? That's where my mom was at first. I'm looking over out into the opening. I'm seeing, 20, 30 miles out, it's open land and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh man, this is a level up, right? So I get into the job. I'm in sales. My job at the point, I was working with life insurance agents to help them put their life insurance policies together for their clients. That's kind of what my role was. Um, with that being said, after 3 to 6 months in that role, I started to see how money moved, how money worked, right? I was getting calls from all types of people, from people who were high net worth earners, where they were making, $100,000 to $500,000 a year, who were helping put their life insurance policies together, from whole life policies to term life policies, all of that. We helped put it together. I designed it for them and I'm looking like, wow, and I'm seeing the returns of money on some of these, these policies that they have. Um, I'm seeing how serious people are taking life insurance. I'm seeing how people use life insurance. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. And so, I'm understanding the demographics of people that are using insurance, right? And so why they're using the whole thing, just understanding it. So this was for me something very new because I'm like, yo, no one ever talked about this. No one ever talked about how money works, how life insurance works, why people get life insurance, how do you become wealthy? No one talked about any of this. So at this point, I'm very curious around 28, just trying to understand, like, yo, why is this conversation just not non-existent in my world, in my culture, right? And so that, that was a reason, there was a point in time where I just, I got a little frustrated because no one ever talked about this concept. So anyway, I'm sitting here now, I kid you not, 4 months in, I'm starting to hear agents who represent celebrities. I'm starting to hear agents who represent athletes. Like, I can't even tell you the name of the people that are household names. They had agents calling in, hey, we need to get this life insurance policy and get this amount in here and get this set up, and we need to get it for this amount of time over 10 years, 20. Like, I'm sitting, and that's when it snapped for me that day. I was 4 months working into the company I was working for, and it snapped when I got a phone call from the agent of the player who I know. I've been playing basketball for 20 years of my life. So obviously I know much about basketball and NBA and all that stuff. So I got a call from an agent who represented a NBA player that I, was inspired by. And I was like, oh no, hold on. And I saw the type of structure policy that was put together. And obviously I can't talk about this, on screen, but I was able to see, oh, this guy's like me, the basketball guy, whatever, family, all that stuff. He's doing this. That's what took it to the next level for me. So I was like, oh no, I gotta go all in. I gotta understand this stuff. So after that, man, I started to take life insurance, annuities, wealth management, money management, understanding money. I started to take it very serious, man, because I started to see, listen, this is again back to what I said earlier. This is a problem that prevents most people in my culture, most people that look like me, from moving forward, from being happy. Now, there's another side to this thing that there's a lot of information held back from people that look like me. There was a lot of information that was put to the side that didn't come through our channels for a reason. So of course there's frustrations and there were frustrations on that. But on the other side, hey, this is an opportunity for me now to understand how money works. And not just for the fact that I can flex and floss on people and say I'm making money and I'm doing this, I'm better than you and all that stuff. But it was to say, oh, I understand this stuff now. I understand how money works. I understand how finances work. Now I can form a different relationship with money. If you don't think you need to change your relationship with money, that is a problem, especially if when you get money and you just spend it on wants and desires and you don't think about investing, saving, you know what I mean, expenses and putting things away and trying to find different ways to grow your money and maintain it. If you're not thinking about that, then you have to change your relationship with money. It's a must. Okay. So again, we're on this process. We're learning about money, learning about wealth and all that stuff. And so I got to the point, that was the point where I was uncomfortable to even talk about money because here's the thing. When you start to learn things and learn new things, you naturally start to evolve and elevate from people in your circle, from people around you, from, everything, right? A lot of us come from, whether it be from, religious backgrounds or certain demographics or, different families, right? Some people just like the way they view money is that it's an evil, right? It's an evil thing. It shouldn't be talked about. We don't talk about money. It's a secretive thing. I got money stashed away in savings. I can't do this. I can't get a life insurance policy. Mainly because if I get a life insurance policy, my spouse can try to kill me. Like we have so many negative connotations about money. And when we see people that have money or they're in a position of wealth, we get mad about it, we get upset about it. And it's like, have you ever questioned yourself and said, why am I like that? Why do I have an emotional, reaction, a negative emotional reaction to people who may be living in a different way, right? From me. If you question yourself that, then your first answer for a lot of people that I may know may pop and say, you know what, they're bad, they're wrong, they're doing stuff out of line. Well, that's not what it is, though. It may be that you may need to change your relationship with money and how you use money so you can put yourself in a different position. Right? Now let's talk about it. Have we been misinformed as a culture, right? As a melanated culture? Yeah, absolutely. Have we been set back? There's several, scenarios today. There was a post that I saw on Instagram recently where it was a lady who's a doctor, I think I want to say Virginia or something like that, and she was trying to sell her home or purchase a piece of real estate, and she got denied because she was a Black woman. Right. So of course you got discrimination, you got systemic issues that's still going on. But at the end of the day, here's the thing. When you start to understand how to maneuver through things and get to different levels and understand how to make this thing work for you, then things get easier. So of course you got to battle the other side and all of that. Of course. But then there's also a knowing that you end up coming once you dive into understanding and changing your relationship with money. There's a knowing that it becomes, okay, I know how to use this. I know how to flip this. I know how to invest this. Right now, you start to when you get funds, you start to do different things with the money. Right. So that's kind of what this is about. Like I said, at 28, things started to change for me. I started reading a lot of books. I started to read a lot. I started to, tap in with influencers who were talking about money. And back to what I was saying, it's around 28, 29. Again, you evolve, you start to learn this concept about anything. So for me, it was money at the time, and you elevate, you evolve. The conversation about money feels and looks different for you at that point because most people aren't going through that process. They're not going through how does money work, how does wealth work, who's doing it, how to invest and stock market and stuff like that, options. Most people aren't doing that. So when they hear money, there's a negative connotation. And at this point, when I'm hearing about money, I don't have that negative connotation anymore. I don't have that negative like residue anymore. Do I understand what's going on? Absolutely. But there's another side of me that has been created to where, okay, I'm understanding what people are doing to become wealthy. I'm understanding what people are doing to multiply their funds. I'm understanding what people do when they get their checks and their income. They start to categorize things like that. They start to make it work for them, right? They understand that here's the process. I'm not going to labor forever, but I can labor for a period of time, and then I can reinvest that money and allow myself to not have to labor anymore because the money is working for me. You feel me? So that's where the concept should be coming from. And that requires you to change your relationship with money and start to look at money differently. Look at it as energy, right? At the end of the day, when you get a check at any point, the first person you should pay is yourself. Most of us, when we get a check, the first thing we start doing is we start paying the mall, we start paying AT&Ts, we start paying the phone companies, the electricity companies, the shoe companies. We pay everybody else but ourselves because we simply don't know. Okay. So within insurance, doing my thing, I started to read a lot of books, started to understand a lot of different things. And, you just get to this point, you're like, oh, I get it, right? You don't get it the day of, it marinates over time. And over time, you start to kind of like just adjust. Like, I got to look at this thing different. So back to what I was saying, though, when you evolve as a person, you find that this concept, you get good at it. For me, it was the money thing, start to understand it better, and you start to speak about money around people, then you get kind of a negative undertone, right? Oh, he's talking about money too much. He's talking about stocks and options and investing and 401ks and Roth IRAs and all this other stuff. So he must be one of them. He must be a bad person because he's talking about money so much. Ta! You ever no, in real talk, like ask yourself, do you have a negative feeling associated when people start talking about money? And that's what happened to me. So I started to diminish and minimize myself in a category that was very important. Is that all I talked about? No, I talk about mindset, I talk about growing yourself, self-development, the whole thing. But when it became a conversation about money and growth, and even in self-development, let's talk about that as well. When it talks about evolution, growth, things like that, nobody wants to talk about that because it feels negative. It feels like I got to change myself. Basically, I got to be accountable to change the way I think about everything. So I started to minimize myself, and I started to downgrade my way of executing because I felt like at one point, if I spoke on money and how to grow money and wealth and things like that, people were going to think that it was negative. So I had to break through that. I had to get to the point I was like, you know what? I don't care what people think. I'm gonna tell you why. Because again, 70% of people, their problems are financial problems. Divorce rates are like up 50, 60% because of finances. Families get broken apart because of finances. What else? People leave jobs because of finances. People can't get homes, cars because of finances. People can't eat or sleep because of finances. People kill themselves because of finances. Now, there's a lot of stuff, or there's a lot of context around that that I'm not mentioning, and I'm not mentioning it for a reason, because there's a whole different ways this conversation can go on why things are set up the way they are set up, right? Let me be clear, I do believe that this is a system that's designed to take out a lot of people. So that's a whole different angle to this conversation. However, within this system, there's a way to maneuver around and position yourself to not have to be faced with the totality of the system designed for you not to win. So back to what I'm saying, if 70 to 80%, if not more, of our problems are focused on finances, and I'm not saying that you don't have any other problems in any other category in your life. I'm just saying one of the biggest problems is finances. So for example, think about it. If right now you had $3 million in your account, right? And you didn't, the money stuff is good. Think about the other issues in your area. Where would they come from? And so for me personally, I mean, most of us, we wouldn't even have, it's like, oh, I don't even have any other problems, right? So we are having to put ourselves in a position where we have to solve problems in our world and be accountable and take responsibility. And a lot of us don't want to do that, but we want change though. How you gonna get change? How will you get change if you're not willing to take accountability and be responsible and change your relationship with money or people or yourself or whatever the environment to make that change? How is it going to happen? You have to ask that question. If you never ask that question, then go to sleep. Well, the consciousness Some people don't even have an idea that they need to even ask that question, right? So this is why we talk about raising consciousness, because if I don't even know to ask this question, if I don't even know that this is my biggest problem, then I'm never even going to go down the road to try to get it figured out. You know what I mean? So that's a problem that a lot of us have to deal with. So it's one thing to have a problem and know about it and say, let me start fixing on this. This is where I was at. It's another thing to not even know that you have the problem, right? So anyway, biggest problems in people's lives are financial problems, and a lot of financial issues disrupt life so much. You want to travel, costs money. You want to breathe, it costs money. You want to eat, costs money, right? And I'm not trying to be, you know, excessive about it, but I just want to also be real about it so we can have a conversation that breaks through. I sit with people. I'm a life insurance agent. I work with people with getting life insurance in place. I've been doing it for 8 years in total. Get life insurance in place for themselves and their family. And I help people also. I'm actually studying for my investments license. I don't know a lot of people that look like me who are investments licensed. In fact, the industry is getting, they're starting to come down on the industry because they want people to have the life and the investment side, right? With your consulting people. So I'm on the path to get my investments license because I want to be representation. I want there to be people who look like us and me who can help you improve your financial situation, improve your way of looking at finances so it can benefit you and not work against you. So that's the reason I'm on the path of getting the investment license. Okay. So I sit with people when it comes to life insurance and things like that. And I have this conversation. And, you know, when I start talking about, you know, this is for the family, if something happens to you prematurely, this is for your family. This is a way that you can leverage the life insurance policy to help you down the road this way, right? And you can see the glossiness in the eyes of the person, usually at times, where it becomes disinteresting, where it becomes, okay, I don't really know if that applies to me, or I don't even know if that's something you should even be talking about. And so we, throughout the way, we start to lose interest because it's not because of what the agent is saying or what, you know, what the products are. It's because we got to be real about it. We don't feel important enough, or we don't treat ourselves important enough to talk about finances and talk about money. So we have to change the way we feel about ourselves to have a real conversation about something that impacts our lives every day, right? So my whole thing right now, of course, we can talk life insurance all day. We could talk building wealth. We can talk assets. We can talk all of that stuff. And trust me, this is my lifelong journey of doing this. We can do that all day long. However, if we don't talk about the psychology of money and how we think about money and how we think about ourselves enough to value this energy to help make our lives live, you know, a more peaceful, comfortable space while we're here, then the conversation is null and void about whatever product or whatever life insurance policy that we're talking about. We just got to be honest about that. So that's the game changing thing for me is now I'm going from, hey, here's life insurance, here's term, here's whole life, there's all these different things that you can do with life insurance. But the conversation is changing from that to, hey, how do you feel about yourself? Right? Do you really want happiness? Do you really want peace? Do you really want to be able to travel? Do you really want to be able to spend time with your family? Do you want to be able to enjoy your hobbies? Do you really want to be able to enjoy your life? And if you do, then you would change this area of your life when it comes to finances. You will make an intentional effort to change the way you view it, change the way you habitually move when it comes to money, right? So that's really the conversation. You know, especially I just turned 34 a couple weeks ago. People in my age range, some people get it, some people don't. Some people get it and they don't make the move. Some people get it and they do make the move. It's all types of different scenarios people go through regarding their relationship with money. But like I said, my goal is to position people to become the best version of themselves, and that's through mindset and finances. And I know for a fact if we can talk about the base fundamental foundations of how finances work, personal finance, and it really is just simple stuff: savings, investing, paying off debt, expenses. That's really where you start. If you can just get that piece down, get you a budget, get you a consumer spending plan for the month, you're already ahead of 90% of the world right there, because Now you become intentional about the income that you are getting. Then we can talk about side businesses and investments and all that other stuff and leveraging this, and this. That's cool. But listen, all the stuff that's out here, all the distractions, you got Netflix, you got shoes, you got clothes, you got going out, and I get it. You can actually put the entertainment in your budget as well. But if that's all you're doing with your money when you get it, you cannot expect to have a great life, a long lasting life. I posted something the other day and I said Social Security is running out. You're not going to have Social Security by the time I get in my 60s and things like that. Right. And somebody responded and said, she was older than I am. She said, Social Security has been talked about as if it was going to go out since she was a kid. And so, she's like, it's never going to go out. It's always going to be there. And I said, you know what? Listen, let me be clear on what I'm saying. And I agree, it's probably going to be there by the time I turn 60. But as far as the way inflation is working, cost of living is working, all this other stuff is, things are just getting more expensive. In California, the gas is $5.50 a gallon right now. Social Security is not going to increase its limits like that. I know people right now, they get Social Security as $1,500 a month. So you can say it's not going to go anywhere, but is it going to work for the average person who's relying on a system to take care of them once they're out of their working age? No, no, absolutely not. It's not going to take care of you. So right now, if you're not focusing on financial literacy, setting up your financial baseline, assets, businesses, making good decisions for yourself, getting yourself in line, getting skill sets and stuff like that, and you expect in the next 30 years to just get taken care of, go get the sheets. Good night. Go home because it's not happening. And so it just says to you, it should tell you that there's a person that you have to become. There's a version that you have to become of yourself that's going to elevate you. And again, we're just talking about finances. There's other areas that this stuff applies to as well. We're just talking about finances because here's the thing. If we can handle 70%, if we understand how to solve 70% of our problems, you telling me the last 30% is going to be hard to take care of. The other 30% is just other stuff in life, right? 70% of your problems are financial. That's really what it comes down to. So go work on trying to solve it, even if it takes you 5 years, 10 years. Who cares? You only got to get it solved once. And all that is just understanding the rhythm of how the psychology of money works. That's really what it comes down to. So anyway, I wanted to pop on here real quick. This is episode 2. Look out for episode 3. We're going to start interviewing other people on mindset and finances. And again, the goal is for people to, get this information and start to reflect and think like, this is interesting. I need to start thinking about this myself and start taking a different perspective at, how money management works, how mindset works, and, just different decisions in my life and being honest and truthful with myself and taking accountability and being responsible. Like these things aren't going to change. The principles aren't going to change. It's are you going to change yourself and evolve so you can start looking at things a different way? So that's it. I appreciate you. I just wanted to hop on here real quick, get to it. And you guys, peace. See you on the next episode.